Ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Brisker.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
Taking it all in is intoxicating. Our Bears dispatched to the Packers in the wild card playoff game Saturday night, advancing to a Sunday meeting with the visiting LA Rams. It was yet another comeback of significance. Biggest comeback in Bears history, from 18 down to win by 4. And now it's time to reset. That's how quickly this season moves, especially the playoffs. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. We discussed today on episode 203 of the Bears Etc. podcast. And this episode of Bears Etc. is brought to you by ChevyDriveChicago.com, the official truck of your Chicago Bears. Our weekly visit with Bears head coach Ben Johnson coming up. Tom, am I right? It is time to reset, because that euphoria is more than 24 hours now, and now the Rams are in your crosshairs.
Yeah, I kind of take reset a different way, though, because you play an opponent for the same opponent 3 times in 6 weeks. You're familiar with them. You don't even have to look at your call sheet or your flip card to know whose number is what number. You know every guy by position. You know the guys by name. You know what style of football they play. You know the coaching staff. Now we're getting ready to play an opponent that we don't know a lot about. We haven't watched the Rams very much on film this year. We haven't seen them live. And so I think when you talk about reset, to me, it's almost like you have to reset because the opponent you're playing. And yeah, the excitement, the euphoria, the whole fan base, the stadium, all that. Yeah. It's almost like you have to flush all that, because is that reenactable? And it's now about the Rams and not about the Green Bay Packers anymore.
They're a powerful bunch. Obviously, Sean McVay does a great job. Very respected coach for sure. He's done it the right way over the years. The Rams have kind of reinvented themselves every couple of years based on salary cap issues. They've gone the hard way, the long way. They've had superstars and future Hall of Famers, and now they have Matthew Stafford off what arguably could be, and depending on your perspective, an MVP season. Certainly led the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns, outstanding veteran that Ben Johnson has institutional knowledge of. He was in that building for 2 years as a quality control coach at first, and then a tight ends coach before he moved off to the Rams, and then played the Rams twice, the wild card game, then they won the season opener. Both of those games were indoors in Detroit. This is an outdoor game with what will be the coldest game of the year for the Rams.
You think about that swap between Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. And why did the Rams want to go out and get Matthew Stafford? Because they felt that was the missing piece to try to get to the Super Bowl. But then you see what Jared Goff has been able to do underneath the guidance of Ben Johnson. So it's really interesting to look at the quarterbacks and within that deal where, Caleb is going in his career. And the one commonality with all those quarterbacks is Ben Johnson. So it's really incredible about when you talk about what Caleb was able to do the other night against the Green Bay Packers, where he's going in the playoff run of this year. Just the time and preparation until next Sunday is going to be incredibly talked about in terms of a topic.
And does it help that Caleb beat the Rams last year? Many of that same personnel is on the field. They won in week 4.
Oh, yeah, it does, but it's kind of got a different flair to this game, because we didn't know a lot about Caleb last year. The Bears did have a little turmoil to go along with them. Rams were more a model of consistency at that point. So there's a lot. And I think right now it's almost like last week's game, you can throw last year's game out of it and just start thinking about preparation that starts Monday. That's going to conclude Sunday at some time. And really excited to see where Caleb is going in terms of his career, but all the other moving parts to this football team.
Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. All right, you reviewed the tape. Anything stick out that can be transferred over to the field on Sunday against the Rams? And particularly, I look at how they finished the game, that second-half offense. Can they pick up where they left off and hit the ground running in the first half this time against the Rams, based on what you saw?
I think they did an incredible job of kind of going with the flow of the game and making the type of changes they needed to make when you look at the injuries that happened on offense and the injuries that happened on defense. And these coordinators did not skip a beat. The specific design of some of the offensive plays were incredible to me. You know, I would like to go over the touchdown pass to DJ Moore because there's so many moving parts of that play specifically. The reason the play was successful because it was one of the most incredibly designed plays that I've seen in a long time. But then I think of Dennis Allen in the way you lose TJ Edwards and then you get Kyler Gordon back. We are both curious about how many snaps he'd be able to play. And then how are you going to continue to get pressure on the quarterback, stop Josh Jacobs, and use the personnel that you have available to you? Dennis Allen did a fantastic job of coaching in morphing with his personnel into how to stop their system. And so I was super excited about coaching as much as I was play accomplishment and play design.
All right, we talked about it on Bears Game Night Live on Fox on Sunday night. Let's break down the 4th and 8th, and then we'll talk about the touchdown to DJ. Those two plays in significance had to happen the way they did, otherwise the Bears are not going to finish the comeback. Break them down.
The 4th down blows me away because, first of all, the escapability and the prolonged protection that Caleb provides for himself. It didn't break down immediately, but he knew in order the moving pieces that are going downfield, they had to get in place in order for the play to succeed. To get a first down of that down and distance, there's a lot that had to happen. Complemented by protection, was able to provide a little bit of extra time himself, and then he saw his targeted receiver. Now, you take in consideration, there's 4 defenders that have a complete triangle around, or a rectangle around Romadunze. As you talk about his throwing motion, both feet off the ground, what that looked like and how accurate of a throw was to drop it in the bucket. You know, we all see those drills that they have in training camp when those quarterbacks are running and trying to throw it into a garbage can, and it's kind of the fun of the drill. That's actuality of the drill, because it was a bucket-sized target frame that you had to get the ball to Romadunze, and you were able to throw it perfectly. He made a fantastic catch. Some people are calling it maybe the biggest play in Chicago Bear history.
We've had a lot of those this season. From Caleb. And as you'll hear in the interview with Ben, complimenting Romadunze as well for dealing with that traffic, because that could be distracting in that particular moment. All right, so the play design on the fake screen to Burden, and then the opening for DJ after Carrington Valentine bit hard on it. It was set up over the course of the game by different formations and some executed screens. So the diabolical nature of things looking the same but different and being different but the same, that is his strength as a play designer and play caller. Break it down.
I'll say, okay, there's going to be some confusing elements that contributed to the success of that play. You think of DJ Moore. He's the farthest receiver to the left-hand side, nearest to the sideline. Then you have off the line of scrimmage is Luther Burden, and to his inside right is Colston Loveland. Then you have an unbalanced line. You have right tackle Darnell Wright is the farthest offensive lineman to the left. And then, you got Cole Kmet playing right tackle, who now he knows that he has a one-on-one pass blocking assignment with no protection, no help to the inside of him. That is a super difficult assignment. So first of all, Cole does a great job at that and provides the amount of time to get that play developed. Then you do got DJ Moore going down the left-hand side, and he's going on his route distance. But the 3 defenders that are over the top of that trio of receivers, The great thing about it was Darnell Wright. Darnell Wright made contact and then went in laterally into the path of the screen. That attracted the attention of the two closest defenders, and they bit towards the line of scrimmage. And that's the thing about it. If you're a defensive player and you bite, you only got to bite one step to maybe 1.5 steps in the wrong direction, you're beat. Colston Loveland was open for a touchdown as well as DJ Moore. And then you saw the accuracy, the throw, the decision by Caleb. Just everything from an unbalanced line to a tight end having a tackle assignment to the tackle, making sure everybody saw him coming out on the screen. Luther Burden did a great job of selling the screen, get the defenders one step off balance, touchdown, and you're wowing. When you go back and you have a chance to look at that thing on tape and how every moving part worked, knock on wood, fantastic.
How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? With the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa Debit Card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. All right, let's listen in from Ben's perspective on that play and other topics in our weekly conversation with the head coach. All right, Ben, thanks very much once again. Somehow, some way, these guys did it again. Wild card weekend was certainly wild. The environment was so dynamite-packed. This city was ripe for something like this. How much did that help you guys get over the hump?
Well, yeah, it's something we talked about late in the season there as we knew we were going to make the playoffs, and yet we didn't know where we were going to be seeding-wise and how important having home playoff games was going to be for our postseason success. And that came to light, just like you said. I mean, I don't know that we capitalized on the momentum we started to create there in the second half if we don't have the fans behind us and giving us that energy. And I know if you're on the opposing sideline, that makes a difference. You know, it's a lot to overcome. And so, yeah, they had a significant impact on this game. And I know our coaches and our players both really appreciate what they were able to do for us.
I'm not a numerologist or anything, and I'm not really good at math to begin with. I failed calculus 3 times. So, but I always try to frame things. So it just hit me last night. 15 seasons without a playoff win.
Mm-hmm.
You can come up with 15 reasons that they won the game. But a 15-point deficit entering the fourth, and number 15, Roma Dunze, makes the 4th and 8 catch that you had to have. And I'll go back to why you had to have it, but think about that. And then we can go a step further. Number 18, because the deficit was actually 18 at halftime, reverses the ending of the 2018 double doink at Soldier Field.
There we go.
How about this? It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. And man, I tell you, I felt that way after a few of these games. You know, you get into the locker room afterwards and, you know, you got celebrating with some of these coaches and you just feel like, man, this was meant to be. For it to go the way some of these games have gone, you know, it's pretty special.
The Super Bowl you referred to in the preseason with Tooney and Grady Jarrett, I was at that game. So everything that happened in that game in the time that was left had to happen.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you feel the same thing happened here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the margin for error gets really small when you're down by that many points in the second half. And so a lot of things went right for us. You know, defense did a phenomenal job in the second half, only allowing 6 points. And almost more importantly, they were able to get off the field as fast as they were, which maximized our time of possession and our opportunities on offense to close the gap, because it did. It took a little bit of time before we got our flow and our rhythm going. You know, you could feel the field goals starting first, and then those last 3 possessions being able to score touchdowns all 3 times. I think it was huge for us.
Are you aware that in 3 games, the offense possessions against the Packers, not once did you guys have the lead with the ball?
Oh, no. I did not realize that. How about that?
How's that even possible that you won 2 of those games? Yeah. I mean, this is...
It sounds like an indictment on the offensive play call is what it sounds like. We need some better play calls early in the game.
No, but
I'll work on that.
I'll tell you what it is, though, and you keep saying it, every blade of grass needs to be impacted. Every snap matters. It happens in the regular season, but it's amplified in the postseason. But it's a sobering reality of the every snap matters, as well as in a euphoric reality. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, and in games like we're playing now, you just don't know. You just don't know which play is going to make the difference. I mean, I look back at it, and we're going to emphasize even more than what we already have. We got to have more population of the football. We get the ball on the ground 3 times last week, and we don't come away with a fumble recovery. And so, it's a good example of why each play. We got to go all out, every position. You just don't know which one it's going to be that's going to make the difference.
25-point fourth quarter, postseason high in any quarter since the 1940 Bears beat the Washington, then Redskins 73-0 in the NFL championship.
Wow.
Again, a rarity.
Yeah. I mean, it's really who we are, right? Is we're playing really good there late at games, and it's been that way all season long.
Game balls in the team meeting today. In addition, any?
So, I mean, offensively, we had Caleb and Colston after the game. They both came through for us in huge ways. Defense, Sweat really felt like, despite the lack of stats, that he was able to affect the quarterback. And then we gave one to Booker as well because he was very active. I think he's a guy that offenses are having to account for right now. Just he's doing a great job shedding blocks and is relentless in his pursuit. And then on special teams, we ended up having Duvernay, who had a couple of explosive returns and really we felt impacted the game, and it was Hicks. It was Hicks that came through. He had a couple, I think 4 key blocks for us on the return game, and did a really nice job for us.
Postseason high in punt return yards, Bears history. When you think we had Devin Hester here, that's pretty special as well. That fake screen to Luther that leads to the game-winning touchdown. How do you just see the game like that to know what you're likely going to get to make that call? Yeah,
well, I mean, I try as much as I can to put myself in the defense's shoes. That's why I actually love to watch practice from the defensive perspective, because I do think it kind of showcases, what it looks like to them. And so I think it helps out with the play cell up front with the O-line. But, a lot of that goes into your mind. Hey, what are their defensive coaches telling their players? What are their defensive players seeing over the course of the game? How do we use that to our advantage the most? And so, I go down that road, and that's a rabbit hole now, because sometimes you can go in circles, or you can overthink yourself. Try not to fall into that trap. But there's a lot to go with it, and hopefully I've gotten better just as I've called plays in this league, and we'll continue to get better at that.
Is that an adrenaline rush that you hide on the sidelines?
After that one hits? Shoot. You want to know truthfully where my mind goes? It goes to, man, we left a lot of time on that scoreboard, because that's not an indictment on our defense or anything. It's just more so, I'm constantly thinking to what's next. And no, I mean, I think those guys did a great job executing a number of those plays, and it was great to see Caleb make that throw and DJ make that catch.
So on your afternoon news conference earlier today at Hallis Hall, you said 5 words that are going to linger for perpetuity here. I don't like that team. So this is reference to the Packers. Is this born out of something deeper than just being a Bear now, or is this 39-year-old man embrace history and old school thinking football like Hallis and Lombardi did and Ditka and Forrest Gregg did? Where's this born out of?
Man, I tell you, I was in the Northeast for 3 years. I GA'd at Boston College and would frequent some of those states up there, Rhode Island, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. And I can't remember which state it was. It's either Vermont or New Hampshire. You drive into the state, and there's a big sign that says, "The way life should be." And, right, wrong, or indifferent, when I think of Chicago and Green Bay rivalry, I think of a rivalry. And I don't think there should be any love lost in between these two teams.
The injury to Ozzie Trapello, heartbreaking to hear. That's not an easy injury.
No, it's a shame, too, because he was getting better every week and becoming a key part of what we were doing on offense. And so I feel for him. I thought what he was able to do getting off the field on his own accord, knowing that We need to save our timeouts.
Amazing
I feel for him right now. He's such a good person. His teammates love them so much that we'll be behind him on this road to recovery, and hopefully we can get him back to where he was before.
And a homegrown Bear gets his first playoff game with the Bears, and he goes down with a fracture.
I know. It's just
those are gut wrenching, aren't they?
I won't forget it. Just being on the field with him there as they're going to get the cart, and his immediate comments are, "Man, I'm letting you guys down," and that just is reflective of how much it means to him. That one's going to hurt.
All right, Matthew Stafford, MVP candidate.
Yeah,
know him from the inside out. What are you facing?
This guy's incredible. I think he's flown under the radar his entire career. I don't think people truly appreciate how talented, how good of a quarterback that this guy is, and so we certainly have a lot of respect for him here in this building. He's playing at a really high level right now. It's gonna take everybody to look to knock him off his game because he's playing really good football right now.
How about Chris Shula's defense?
Yeah, I've only gone against him. It was really the first game that he called. That was last year, week 1, and you only get better with time and experience. And so I'm sure as I dive into it, I'll notice a few wrinkles in there, but he's done a phenomenal job. I got a lot of respect for their front seven. Those guys can really wreck a game, both run game and pass game. We're going to have to be at our best up front. I think when you just look at the numbers, the situational football is what jumps off the stat sheet. They're a really good red zone defense, really good on third down. So, this is going to be a tough matchup here this week.
This team has gone from the basement to the Elite Eight, if this was an NCAA tournament bingo.
Yep.
You're in the final 8.
That's right. And, it's right where we want to be, right where we need to be, and we're really excited to have another home game here.
All right, Ben, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I was thinking about you when Ben took the podium earlier on Monday and was asked about Green Bay Packer rivalry. What was that, your 80 what game?
That was my 85th or 86. My sentiments exactly. From everything he said in the post-game locker room to everything that I was taught by every coach I ever played for, especially Mike Ditka, from what I got to learn about this rivalry from the good times and the bad times. It's not a life decision, but in terms of our football life, it's the most competitive scenario, situation, storyline that we face each year. And there was no bigger storyline to the Bears-Packer rivalry than this past Saturday night. I love the demeanor of Ben, and I trust him, and I believe what he says. And I've, from the time that we've got to be introduced to him at the podium to where he was at in your interview today, I hang on every word he says.
And so do the players, evidently, because he told them in the locker room they're going to have the Bears. They're going to have the biggest comeback in playoff history, and that's exactly what happened. Again, he's just checking boxes on his statements. They're not statements; it's belief. He believes, they believe, and look what's happening. Again, no style points and how you get a playoff win. Just get it and move on to the next one. So now, that final 8 thing, it really puts it in perspective. I never looked at playoff football that way before. Until now, almost like an NCAA basketball tournament, right? Because it is survive and advance. But you're in the final 8. Final 8.
Right. The thing that I guess we can probably appreciate about it so much is because realistically it wasn't expected. It was hoped for, and we wanted to see the Bears pointed in the right direction, and we wanted to see the trickle up effect where they got better this year, they're going to be better next year, and so on and so forth. I think from what we've learned about this football team, their resiliency to the end, the continuous development of Caleb, the development of Colston, Monungai, and Luther Burden. I only bring up those 3 guys because they're rookies and they're big-time contributors. But everything that we've attached to this football season, I don't know if I should say it, but I don't have anything less than Super Bowl expectations. And maybe I'm getting out ahead of myself, but they make me believe this. And I'm happy to believe it.
Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this Bears season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. Any other notes from the Ben interview that you'd like to dig into, or are you all squared on that?
I have appreciation for your interview because I know what a serious guy Ben is. And I don't know, are you less serious the morning after the game? Are you more serious because you're getting prepared for your next opponent? And then you brought up some of the relevance of the numbers, and that's probably the fun part of an interview that you can have with him when you talk about the 15 and you talk about the 18, because he almost starts thinking about those numbers and how they all fit into the formula of the last game. But I just you have that appreciation of that fun. And then when he talks about going out in the field to visit TJ Edwards, and TJ Edwards saying, I'm sorry, I've let you guys down, and how emotional that's got to be for a head coach, because there's nobody that has ever let these guys down, especially TJ Edwards. This guy gives everything and is all for the betterment of this football team. So, when you talk about that part of coaching, that's something that we never really consider because we only see the on-field performance. And, I guess Ben is all Rams all day from this moment on.
Yeah, and I have, great respect like you for TJ. It breaks my heart to see that happen because he is a local guy. He is a Bears fan from birth and had been in that stadium as a kid so many times, and then he gets his first playoff game and he gets that injury. But that is the sport. You just never know when something like – and then Ozzie Trapillo.
Yeah.
Ozzie Trapillo. That's another tough one. That's a tough one.
It is because, Ozzie, when Ryan Poles went and drafted Ozzie, he had a plan in place for him, but he needed to see how things worked out. And then he saw the committed professional that Ozzie Trapillo is and what he was willing to do. And then how Dan Rochar and his offensive line staff took him under their wing and just continued to develop the skill set he had and where it was going to fit best. So I feel bad for Ozzie Trapillo. I want to see him rebound and come back and have a lengthy career unlike any others. And when I was thinking of TJ Edwards and being a local guy, I was thinking about Leslie Frazier in the Super Bowl, because here's a guy that became a free agent into the NFL, became one of the cornerbacks starting in the NFL, and then he got hurt on a reverse punt return in the Super Bowl. And you just think of those types of moments and how they affect people that we appreciate in our football lives. I love Leslie Frazier, and he was a great teammate, and he's a better person. I have a great appreciation for TJ Edwards and everything that he means to the Bears and what the Bears mean to him.
I was thinking about Mark Colombo. He had a similar injury for the Bears and did manage to come back and finish with the Dallas Cowboys and got himself as healthy as he could. Another Boston College guy.
Right.
So,
strangely enough.
Those statistical things, I didn't bring this up to Ben, but I thought it would be too much, right? Too much. Because Doug Coletti, I don't know, he comes up with all this stuff, but so did the Bears. And the Bears are 3-3, down 10-plus points in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter this season. The rest of the league is 3-158.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible. Well, one was Detroit, and then they lost Minnesota and Green Bay.
Right.
I think, when you go back and you look at the losses, they had one loss this season. That was to the Detroit Lions. It seems like the other games, they lost the game. Detroit Lions was an overwhelming victory. That's part of the process that everybody goes through in a 17-game season. But the other ones, we could go back and look at those games.
Baltimore was the bigger. It was 31-19 the final. So you're talking about the margin of victory. But the rest of them were. I mean, the Bears were in 12 games of their season, including the playoffs, now in one-score games, and they're 8-4. That's terrific resilience. That's for sure. I got to talk about. You touched on defense. Got to talk about Cairo Santos, and I think I said it to Ben on one of the two interviews today. He's his own home field advantage. So he kicked 6 out of 6 field goals in 2 games against the Packers in the weather. You saw what the weather did to the opposing kicker in this game that made a big difference in the steps to climb back into the game for the Bears to ultimately get the win. He is his own home field advantage, and will be on Sunday against the Rams with temperatures in the below sub-zero wind chills.
Yeah. Too, is you think about the conditions when they were going through pregame warmups. It was a blizzard type conditions when they were out there. So all that kind of resonates with the punters, the snappers, the kickers, the holders, and everybody. And they start thinking about dry footballs, how they got to make sure they control. And all of a sudden the snow goes away, the field dries up, but it's that lingering effect of some of the conditions that you went through your pregame warmups. You're either going to be a guy like Cairo that lives in confidence at his own stadium, or you're going to be some of these guys, which kind of surprises me that a Green Bay kicker would come down here and lack confidence, because he kicks in outdoor perfect field conditions as well up in Green Bay. But I think when you come to Chicago, all the kickers are intimidated by it, and Cairo's been able to develop confidence in it.
Yeah, you just wonder what pregame did, because, at one point Doug turned to me and said, man, he just hit the camera, in pregame.
We were watching him, and he was having a difficult time. But, that's something that you got to try to work to overcome.
Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. I want to give a tip of the cap to Devin Duvernay as well, and the blocking on that. As Ben said, Elijah Hicks picked up a bunch of blocks, got himself a game ball here on Monday. Before we take a look at what the Rams are going to throw on the table.
I kind of applaud DeMarco Jackson, because here's a guy that was a special teams player. Then he got a snippet as a starter, and then TJ came back, and all of a sudden TJ gets hurt, and DeMarco comes back in, and he's able to play the position requirements of against offenses that have a lot of talent on the other side of the ball. And then what that defense was able to do against Josh Jacobs in that second half, where he had 7 carries for 6 yards. I think that was one of the key ingredients to allowing the Bears to win this football game, because now you're putting pressure on the quarterback that's coming back after an absence to be as fresh and as accurate as he can possibly be. But the Bears still had they didn't really convert to a lot of sacks, but they had pressure on him. They put him in a retreat position, and that affects his fundamentals. So, just like Kyler Gordon coming back in the mix, and I think you told me last night he played 44 snaps, DeMarco Jackson being ready to come off the bench and play at a level that they expect him not to skip a beat. And so then I know that Ben said that they gave a game ball to Montez Sweat, and he and Austin Booker are playing a lot of snaps, and they're playing really well against the run, as well as putting pressure on the passer.
Yeah, they had 5 combined quarterback hits, 3 for Sweat. Booker's he's made an impact, He's a hard-working dude, snap to snap. He does not give up a snap. He plays all the way to and through the whistle.
Well, yeah, I agree 100% with you. And, he was a type of player that need to be introduced to Dennis Allen, because I think when you're a guy that maybe you're still a little bit undersized for ultimately where and what you're going to be, and then you start proving it to the position coach and the defensive coordinator that you're capable of doing everything that's going to be asked of him to hold down that position. And so I'm my hat's off to Austin Booker, and I want to see him get bigger, better, and stronger.
All right, let's look at the LA Rams. They get the victory, and watching that game, I was impressed with Carolina's physicality. They hit them hard in that game, and they took them right down to the wire. The Rams winning 34-31. It was in Carolina's building, and that was a pesky team. Matthew Stafford survived that one, hurt his finger. It looks like he's going to be okay, but it's their 12th straight game with 20 or more points. They led the NFL with 30 or more points this season on average. Second longest active streak in the NFL with those 12 regular season and playoff games of 20 points plus. Is this going to be a game the Bears are going to have to think about lighting up the scoreboard a little bit against these Rams?
Yeah, I think that's first in Ben's mind every time. He would like to go 50 a week. I don't necessarily think you have to do that, but when you think of their offense, they got a couple good tight ends. They have Puka Nacua. They have Devontae Adams. They have 2 good running backs. Obviously, they have a good quarterback that's super familiar with McVay's system. And I think that, you're going to have to go put comparative points on, with the Rams. You talk about the conditions. They're going to be less than perfect. And if you're a guy that doesn't like to play out in the cold weather, this is going to be an obstacle for you to overcome. And then when you look at the defensive side of the ball, they have a really interesting interior four. The two defensive tackles and the way they play with the linebackers. The defensive tackles, they have a wide variety of moves no matter where they're lined up. You go back to the first play of the game the other day. The defensive tackle is lined up as the outside eye of the left guard. He ends up coming all the way over and hitting the right guard. The way that they move in multiple directions, you got to be confident in your snap count and the footwork. So I'm interested to see how our three interior offensive linemen battle with their interior four defenders. And I'm talking defensive tackle to second level linebackers.
I was just noting this, getting ready for the game, comparing the Bears defense and the Rams defense in just terms of the personnel and how many different players are involved. Bears have certainly had a lot. Rams do too. So this is an interesting comparison. The Rams, 10 different players had interceptions this season, 9 for the Bears. Each team, 7 different players forced to fumble. 7 different players recovered a fumble for the Rams, 6 for the Bears. 13 different players sacked quarterback for the Rams. Bears had 14 with at least a half a sack. And each team had 14 different players with at least 30 tackles this season. So it was quite similar. I mean, because
stat for Ben.
Well,
it is really one of the most interesting comparisons of numbers between defenses that I've heard in a long time.
I said nothing about points, and they did a nice job, the Rams, in terms of limiting points, but it's populating to the football. And Ben, bemoaned the fact the Bears didn't get those 3 fumbles on the ground. You'd like to get a couple. And so the Rams play with some fire, and they get to the football. So that's something to keep an eye on here as well. And then on special teams, Jared Versus has 2 blocked kicks this season. And he's a Pro Bowler along with Byron Young. And then you got a local area guy, I say only because of Northwest Indiana, Braden Fisk. He had 2 pressures and a quarterback hit, a hurry, and a sack in the playoff game against Carolina. This podcast is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Tastes like Miller Time Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Got to throw it in there because you played for Don Shula, and now his grandson is Chris Shula, and he's done a nice job for the L.A. Rams. Very versatile with his personnel, Tom. Anything else that you saw in their scheme that grabs your attention? They are at 3-4. However, they morph into a bunch of stuff.
Obviously he's a good motivator to that group because they got a lot of different personalities, but they play well on the inside, and then that kind of complements the edge. So they have guys that confront their blocker and then disengage immediately. They got good athletes. They have guys that run well. So it is an athletic bunch up front. But if they need to go big on the inside of their defense, they got a couple defensive linemen that can go big and powerful. They know how to take on double teams. And rather than seeing a defensive line that likes to hit and penetrate, they like to hold up multiple offensive linemen to keep them off their linebackers. Landman and the other guy, they run pretty well, and they react quickly to the point of attack. So it's something that some way, shape, or form, if you have a double team block, if you have a combination, you're going to have to get into the path of those linebackers because they don't only move laterally well. As soon as they get to their point, they come vertically very hard. And when the running backs are going to get into that one-on-one confrontation and on the inside of a hole, this is probably the dirtiest of yards we're going to be asking our guys to get from the inside shoulder of the right tackle to the inside shoulder of the left tackle. And that's where a majority of the point of attack runs come from. And so it's going to be about making sure that you bring the physicality like you have in a long time. But I will tell you this, if you bring physicality on a cold weather day, that's the way you may get guys to shy away from desired contact.
Yeah, their safeties like the hit Cam Curl. He's their second leading tackler. Also, a healthy Quentin Lake makes a difference on their defense. He's when he's not out there, They're a different type of defense, and he led them with 6 tackles and 2 passes defense and a pass breakup against Carolina. So that's just a quick snapshot. A lot to dive into yet to figure out these L.A. Rams. They're always going to have your attention, that's for sure, for many of the reasons you just mentioned. And this weekend's playoff game is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, the official healthcare partner of the Chicago Bears. I know you always scout the weather. I know it's going to be cold, but is there any snow in the forecast, Tom?
No snow in the forecast. Okay. There's a daytime high of 17 degrees. I don't know what time the game's going to be. I'm kind of thinking because of L.A., Chicago, it's going to be a Sunday, the second game Sunday, because they're going to want everybody in L.A. to be in their houses listening and watching the game, and it gives them a better shot to be home. And, what's the difference between 2:30 and 5? Cold is cold.
Yeah, but when that sun goes away and that wind cranks up at night off the lake, it could get a lot colder at night. It being cold at night feels different. It's a psychological thing.
I know, but
psychological, Tom.
These are 20-something-year-old kids. Nothing's cold to them. And, to some of the guys, you take a guy like DJ, for example, and his, venture into the playoffs. He's been waiting for this opportunity his whole life. He's one of the toughest guys that I've gotten to appreciate since he's been here. Listen, after that Cleveland game, everything's warm in comparison.
Thanks very much to Ben Johnson, as always. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.